Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 9th of November 2023, and these are the stories that we'll highlight and try to describe in detail with different perspectives during the course of our show. We'll begin with the ECO Summit, the 16th ECO Summit that is happening in Tashkent as we speak. Our caretaker Prime Minister Nour Sahab also addressed this auspicious mood today and highlighted the importance of the ECO as a regional body and also the different challenges that it is confronted with, as well as the different kinds of cooperation that needs to be put in high gear, whether it be the Vision 2025, whether it be other issues like the trade agreements between the ECO states are things that were highlighted during the course of the speech of our caretaker Prime Minister. The ECO is an important body, and of course our caretaker Prime Minister also met with other important leaders on the sidelines of this move. This is going to be our first segment, the importance of the ECO as a regional body and what should we expect from it in the coming days. Then we'll be talking about Palestine and of course the 10,000 plus casualties that have happened there, and Israel is not stopping as we speak. There has been another attack on the Jabalia camp in West Gaza in which 30 people have lost their lives, scores have been injured, and the maximum casualties in Gaza are children because of course the adults have more or less left Gaza, but it's the children, it's the women that are the majority of the casualties that are happening there. The world is slowly and steadily rising to the occasion, should I say that, or reacting to it and trying to find a solution, trying to find some kind of trying to make efforts for ceasefire, but Israel does not want ceasefire. Israel continues to bombard. It says no ceasefire, and we don't know till when this is going to continue. Israel also says it wants to have a say as far as the post conflict time in Gaza is concerned, wants to control Gaza even post conflict, and this is something that the US is not ready to accept. What are the different developments as far as this war is concerned? We'll be highlighting that in our second segment. Then we'll be discussing the 146th birth anniversary of our national poet, philosopher Allama Muhammad Iqbal. Whether it be his khudi, his concept of khudi, whether it be his concept for the youth, whether it be his concept for the Muslim world, Allama Muhammad Iqbal taught about and talked about issues and important points that are still prevalent and relevant in this day and age. The youth need to take him as a role model. So do a lot of Muslim countries across the world. We'll be highlighting the importance of Allama Muhammad Iqbal as a philosopher, as a thinker, as a Muslim leader in our third segment. Then we are going to talk about a study that reveals that 2 million species face extinction, whether it be climate change, whether it be other issues that give more impetus to this extinction of different species that is happening as we speak and will continue to happen if we don't take the necessary precautions. But will the world take the necessary precautions? That is a huge question mark. And then we'll be talking about Picasso's Femme à la montre, which means the woman with the watch that has been sold. This painting has been sold for $139 million US. It had already been bought before in the 1960s. Now it has been resold by him and bought by an anonymous buyer. Highest valued art auctioned globally in the year 2023. Of course, Picasso is a very renowned global name, but the amount that his painting has sold for is also quite high. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the ECO summit, the importance of regional trade between the countries that form the ECO, and Pakistan's participation as an important partner in this summit. More in the following report.
Caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haqqaqat said the corridor-based approach adopted by ECO was a step in the right direction. Such corridors will lead to greater connectivity amongst the member countries. Anwarul Haqqaqat said Afghanistan has a critical role in regional connectivity projects such as Gaza 1000, Trans-Afghan Railways, TAPI and other projects.
Connectivity projects such as Gaza 1000, Trans-Afghan Railways, TAPI and others are not merely economic projects, they are also strategic investments in our shared future. Pakistan therefore looks forward to working closely with other ECO member states towards the shared goal of building a peaceful, prosperous and interconnected Afghanistan.
He said these are not only economic projects, but they are also strategic investments in our shared future. Highlighting the latest development in the investment landscape of Pakistan, the Premier said the government has established a special investment facilitation council that will serve as single window platform for cooperation in 5 key sectors, including agriculture, defense production, IT, energy and mining. Denouncing Israeli atrocities, the Prime Minister urged the ECO member countries to push for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Pakistan strongly condemns this. We should immediately rally behind and stop the cessation of the violence and encourage to have this humanitarian corridor so that unfortunate defenseless people of Palestine could be helped out.
Highlighting the Indian atrocities in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Anwarul Haq Kakar said Pakistan continues to rely on ECO countries to support the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir in light of UNSC resolutions.
Now we discuss the ECO summit, Pakistan's participation, and of course our caretaker Prime Minister being there, talking to many important regional leaders there as well, and what is the importance of ECO as an organization. We've been joined by Dr. Khalid Waleed. He's an economist, joins us in the studio. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, when you look at the ECO, when you look at the past, present, and the importance that an organization such as this one has for the countries that form part of it, how can the member countries join hands in order to make it a more viable option for the region, a more positive or optimistic option for the future, looking at a different geopolitics or geostrategic issues that are confronting the region and the world in particular?
I would say that there are 3 key terms to understand this visit and this regional cooperation. First is geopolitics, second is geoeconomics, and then there is energy economics. These 3 can be looked into the context of diversification and coordination. Let's talk about geopolitics first. Globe is going towards again the polarization. We need not to go into one camp, or we need not to take sides. So this is one very important step, that we are diversifying our geopolitical portfolio. Second is the geoeconomics. Again, we are diversifying our choices. We are collaborating, we are cooperating under this very phenomenon, very good ECO summit. And third is energy economics. Again, we are diversifying our portfolio. Again, in terms of geopolitics, we are not taking sides. We are maintaining our balanced position. In terms of geoeconomics, we are establishing relationships with China, with ECO, and on the other hand GCC, which provides those landlocked countries Afghan a very good, effective way towards the sea, so that their sea route trade can enhanced. We are opening doors. So this is the policy of geoeconomics. Second, coming towards the energy economics, core has very, I would say, enhanced level of, I would say, energy intensive land available to them in terms of Kasa, in terms of Tapi. They have the hydro potential, they have the gas potential. So what Pakistan can provide is, Pakistan can provide them the transit way, so that they can access the seawater, and Pakistan can have in return that diversification in terms of geopolitics, in terms of geoeconomics, and in terms of energy economics. So that is a good initiative. We need to enhance this cooperation, not just with the ECO, with expanding this relationship under this summit towards other regions of the world, so that in times of wars we are shifting from geopolitics to geoeconomics. That would be the best case scenario for Pakistan, not in just terms in the economic terms, but in the energy context as well.
Dr. Khalid, when you look at the ECO Vision 2025, and of course our caretaker Prime Minister also highlighted that while he was addressing the auspicious mood, there are 5 important aspects of the ECO Vision 2025, that of course trade, transport, connectivity, energy, tourism and economic growth. Which are the which are the aspects that are deemed more important, or are all 5 equally important? And if so, which are the countries that are going to play a very important role as far as the Vision 2025 is concerned?
Well, I would say we need to create a balance between these 5 pillars. just like the SIFC has established, and they have created balance among the sectors of the economy. We need to take all the sectors forward, and we need to have this balanced approach so that one sector is complementing the other sector, because this is the world which is integrated, not just in terms of that countries are integrated, but the sectors are integrated in a sense that one sector is providing other in terms of inputs, and the other's output is dependent on the other sector. So we need to have this collaborative approach in terms of regional collaboration and in terms of sectoral collaboration as well. Again, if we take one sector, that is the trade, which combines all the other sector, we can have IT involved in it, we can have energy involved in it, and so on and so forth. Enhancing trade, that would not only help Pakistan but the region as well, bringing Pakistan's exports to the level where we can mitigate or offset our trade deficit. That would be a good thing to have. Starting with trade, keeping balance between the sector, that would be a way to go for Pakistan.
All right, before we delve further into these 5 sectors, we have Hassan Khan, who is an expert on Afghan affairs, who also joins us online. Hassan, thank you very much to have joined us. Hassan, our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Nour, while addressing the 16th ECO summit, says Pakistan, and I quote, Pakistan looks forward to working closely with the other ECO countries towards a shared goal of building a peaceful, prosperous and interconnected Afghanistan. How important is the role of the ECO countries, member countries, in order to stabilize Afghanistan and make it more prosperous?
Thank you very much, Omar. I think definitely if you look at the ECO in the Afghan context, so definitely almost except Turkey, the rest of the ECO members are neighbors of Afghanistan, like it is Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey. These are the founding members of ECO. Then we have Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, then the 2 other Central Asian countries. So definitely, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, Pakistan, Iran, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, even Turkey, and they have a major role to play. Basically, the current issue, specifically which Pakistan is facing and Afghanistan are facing, this is the instability or the uncertainty, specifically vis-a-vis terrorism. And this issue of terrorism or insecurity, this is not of a specific country. It's concerns with the entire region. So I think ECO, like the other forum, like Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, like the OIC, etc., it is much better place than other organizations vis-a-vis Afghanistan and Pakistan in this region. So I'm pretty sure that the Prime Minister visit and specifically this Vision 2025 of the CCO, this summit, is definitely going to play a big role in not only in reducing the tensions, because it's one of its agenda item is connectivity. So its connectivity is not only the road connectivity. I think the connectivity is also concerns with connecting all the capitals, whether it is Tehran, Islamabad, Tashkent, Dushanbe, or it is Kabul, or the Ankara. So I think this connectivity, we have to look into this connectivity from a broader perspective, and that is connecting all this entire region. And as I said earlier, most of the ECO members are the neighbors of Afghanistan. Almost 6 are the neighbors of Afghanistan. So definitely it's going to play a big role. And I think Prime Minister has rightly pointed it out. And before leaving for the summit, he has addressed a press conference where he highlighted Pakistan's new policy with Afghanistan. And definitely he has said one thing, that Pakistan is going to play ball with Afghanistan the way the rest of the neighbors are doing. So our policy will be definitely as per other neighbors of Afghanistan. So definitely the Prime Minister would have shared the new contours of Pakistan's policy toward Afghanistan with other ECO members, particularly with Iran, with Tajikistan, with Turkey, with Turkmenistan, etc. So I'm pretty sure that this ECO, if properly utilized, and as Prime Minister said, it can play a big role in stabilizing not only Afghanistan, I think the entire region, and specifically addressing this common enemy, the terrorism and the terrorist networks which are operating from Afghanistan, particularly targeting Pakistan.
All right, now Hassan, you point towards the different elements that are destabilizing Afghanistan and also the neighboring countries, including Pakistan, and there are different important factors behind it. There's a saying that says it takes two to tango. The ECO countries can try how much, as much as they can or want in order to stabilize Afghanistan, but until there is that resolve from within Afghanistan to make that change for the better, to stabilize itself, that change cannot happen. Do you feel that that resolve is present within the Afghan Taliban or the current government that is present in Afghanistan to stabilize its country, and the desire to work with other countries?
I think this is a million-dollar question. The reason is the entire world, including the region and the regional countries, they are now searching for the ways to interact, to engage the Taliban. Now they are in a way necessarily good for the region, whether you like it or not, but they are there in Kabul, and they are now controlling almost the entire Afghanistan. So definitely the world is still shy of having a direct communications or establishing relation with Kabul. But after all, whether we like it or not, we have to do that. But the problem is engaging Taliban. How you will engage? Pakistan has time and again pointed it out that Afghan soil is being used against Pakistan. The TTP terrorists and their networks are operating from Afghanistan. And you definitely would have heard about the UN Monitor report, which was published in last July. That was also referring to the presence of TTP network in Afghanistan, and also it specifically mentioned that the TTP is targeting Pakistan from Afghanistan. But despite that, when our Prime Minister addressed the press conference yesterday and again requested the Kabul administration that we need to cooperate on this issue, and asked for handing over of those who are anti-Pakistan and they are staying in living in Afghanistan to be handed over to Pakistan. And the abrupt reaction, the knee-jerk reaction from the Afghan, from the Kabul spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid was again the same old rhetoric, saying that Afghan soil is not being used against any country, and we have committed it in Doha agreement, and again accusing Pakistan that this worsening security situation and this terrorist attack on Pakistan, this is Pakistan internal issue. And I think you rightly mentioned in your question that it needs two to tango. If Afghanistan is not cooperating, it's not only with Pakistan. Iran have concern from Afghanistan. Tajikistan has a huge concern from Afghanistan. Turkmenistan have the same concern from Afghanistan. So I think definitely the world's biggest challenge, as I see it, to find, and the same is for the regional countries, including Pakistan, to find out the entry point to Afghanistan. How to, once you try to engage Kabul, how you will engage it, from which angle you will enter, and you will approach this stubbornness which is being continuously shown by Taliban. So I think that is a big challenge, but I'm pretty sure that once the world leaders and the regional leaders, when they interact with each other and they talk, so definitely they will find out those entry points through which they can interact with the Kabul administration.
Let's hope that those points are found, and that the Afghanistan administration also wants to collaborate and cooperate with the different countries on this issue, not only to stabilize the region but also its own country. Thank you very much, Hassan Khan, to have joined us and to have talked to us about the Afghan angle as far as the ECO summit is concerned. Coming back to you, Dr. Khalid, in your point of view, what is Pakistan's vision as far as the work of the organization is concerned, as far as the promotion of regional connectivity is concerned, mutual prosperity is concerned? This is something that has been highlighted time and again by the Pakistani leadership. But what are the key points in your point of view, and what needs to be worked upon?
Well, building upon that Afghanistan point, we need to center our policies, our regional policies, not on the geopolitical, geostrategic anymore. It should be based on geoeconomics, I think. And one way to engage Afghan side is that we build dependencies and we have this trade going on with the Afghanistan. Prime Minister rightly mentioned that there was a Casa 1000 project by World Bank, and that was $1 billion project bringing electricity from Kyrgyzstan to Pakistan via Afghanistan, but that failed because of instability in Afghanistan. So the regional stability, well, it connected with Afghanistan's stability. What Pakistan's policy should be to engage with Afghanistan and engage with the other countries which are also connected with Afghanistan stability. This ECO forum provides us with a very imperative sort of opportunity that we can engage Afghanistan and Taliban government, not only to cooperate for the stability of Pakistan, but the stability of Afghanistan, and that bleeds into the stability of the whole region as well, and the CAR region as well. So this would provide economic opportunities. This would open up the energy corridor from the CAR energy intensive countries, and then we can provide them in return the sea route via Gwadar, which is already established under the CPAC. So this is what we are having, this integrated sort of approach, but the central point will obviously would be the Afghanistan. We need to have this Afghanistan policy linked with the regional policy, and regional countries should play a role under this Pakistan-Afghanistan bilateral relationship.
All right. Now, Dr. Khalid, you talk about this China-Pakistan economic corridor. Our caretaker Prime Minister, during his address to the ECO summit, talked about the role of the corridor-based approach that was adopted by the ECO to maximize potential as a step in the right direction. What are the contours of this approach?
Well, so let me start with the establishment of SAFC. SAFC is kind of a bridge between Middle East, between CAR and between China, and providing a one single window facility so that we can have this investment coming into Pakistan. This is another opportunity that we can link regions with the other regions. We can link China via Gwadar and CPAC to the Middle Eastern countries. In the same way, we can link CAR region with Middle Eastern countries via Gwadar, and that would again attached with the Afghanistan stability. On the other one side, where there is a food insecurity in GCC countries, in CAR region, they are landlocked countries. They need sea route. So there is opportunity available for Pakistan that we can enhance trade with cooperation with China. We're bringing energy from the CAR Central Asian republics and providing them Middle Eastern countries what they need, that is the corporate farming and other sort of things. So under this SAFC arrangement, I think we need to build capacities through China, bring energy from these CAR region, and then provide trade to the GCC countries, so that we are not only helping us, we are helping the region as well.
Now, Dr. Khalid, what about the preferential trade agreement between the ECO countries and the ECO trade agreement quota? How important is that?
Well, starting from the GCC negotiated free trade agreement, we need to have this sort of agreement with the Central Asian Republic as well, so that not only we are in a form of transit route, we also trading with these countries and bringing our imports down and bringing our exports up, so that we can contain our trade deficit. This will also help building economic potential of Pakistan. Another important aspect of this is to export our manpower to those countries as well. That would be a very key thing to have, because in terms of remittances, we have lots coming from the GCC countries, but we can explore this market of CAR region as well. This would diversify our economy as well.
Now, Mr. Kakar also pointed out while addressing again, because they are important points that he highlighted, and from an economist point of view, I'd like to understand your, your 2 cents on it. When he talks of accelerated reforms to realize the full potential of ECO, what is he referring to?
Well, there is a gravity model in economics, theoretical economics, which says that there are 2 factors which can enhance this trade or bilateral trade. First is the distance between the countries. Second is how large is their economy. In terms of those factors, we can evaluate the potential. Those 2 factors telling us that their economy is large enough to have trade with us. Their distance with Pakistan is very, very low, not very significant. So we can have trade and we have the potential. But what is needed is the stability of the region, not just in terms of geopolitics, but in the geoeconomics as well. Again, mentioning that Afghanistan would be the central point of this if we want to cultivate the full potential of this extended coordination between GCC, between Central Asian republics and involving China.
I mean, I feel that the ECO as an organization is extremely important, specifically to enhance the trade between the member countries. And for Pakistan, it is one of the ideal, organizations that can further boost its economic potential and, of course, its export potential as well, that Pakistan is looking forward to. Thank you so very much, Dr. Khalid, Waleed, to have joined us, to have come all the way, and to have highlighted the importance of the ECO as an organization and, of course, Pakistan's contribution to it. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns Palestine, the latest developments as far as Gaza are concerned, and the casualties that keep on rising, and the latest being the Jabalia camp that has been struck by Israel, in which 30 people have lost their lives. Israel doesn't want to go for a ceasefire, but the world is trying to push Israel to do so. Will there be a middle ground? More in the following report.
In the latest Israeli airstrikes, dozens of Palestinians, including children, are killed across the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media sources said an Israeli aircraft bombed 2 homes in the Jabalia refugee camp in the northern Gaza Strip, killing 30 Palestinians, including children and women. Dozens of people were also injured in the airstrikes, while others were still stuck under the rubble of the 2 houses. Israeli warplanes also bombed a house in the Al Sabra neighborhood in Gaza City, killing 8 people and wounding dozens, while the Al Ikhlas mosque in the Al Aqad neighborhood in the center of Khan Yunis in the south of the Strip was bombed once again, as was the Al Mustafa mosque in the Sheikh Nasser area of Khan Yunis. 4 mosques have been destroyed by Israeli airstrikes so far. The Associated Press said several people were also killed and injured early on Thursday in an Israeli airstrike on the town of Beit Lahiya in the northern Gaza Strip. International human rights organizations, including the United Nations, have condemned Israel's war on Gaza, with United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk saying the collective punishment by Israel of Palestinian civilians is a war crime, as is unlawful forcible evacuation of the civilians. Israeli airstrikes across the besieged enclave have killed more than 10,500 people, including over 4,300 children so far. Most residents have left the area after Israeli warnings, maneuvering through the rubble of destroyed buildings and bodies blown to pieces in Israeli raids, but hundreds of thousands still remain.
Palestinian activist Nour Odeh joins us from the West Bank. Thank you very much, Nour, to have joined us, because first-hand information on what is happening in Palestine can only come from somebody like you who understands and who is seeing that firsthand. First of all, before we go towards Gaza, let's begin with the West Bank, where you are situated. The number of casualties in the West Bank are also increasing. So are the arrests. If we remember, the activist Ahad al-Tamimi has also been arrested from the West Bank as well. These curbs on free voice, these killings, these arrests, what is the intention as far as the expansion of this conflict beyond Gaza is concerned?
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that for this Israeli government, the conflict is not confined to Gaza. The colonial project against Palestine expands to cover the West Bank and Gaza. In fact, the center of that project is in the West Bank, and that's why ever since the Israeli assault on Gaza started, we've seen Israeli settlers and soldiers escalate their attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank. We've seen several communities completely displaced from their homes in the West Bank. In fact, 60% of the Palestinians killed in the West Bank this year were killed just in the past month. Today, for example, there's an ongoing raid in Jenin in the northern West Bank where 10 Palestinians have been killed. Drones were used to conduct airstrikes, and several residential buildings were taken over by Israeli soldiers. The escalation of violence is intended to remind the Palestinians that Israel is in fact in control, that it does call the shots, that it will do what it pleases because the world stands with it, and it will not allow for any accountability to reach it. That's really the full story. We cannot look at what's happening in Gaza without zooming out and having a full view of the occupied Palestinian territory.
Now, Noor, you know, when you look at the different statements that have been emanating from the Israeli side, just take Benjamin Netanyahu for one. He wants to take control of Gaza even beyond whenever the conflict or the war in Palestine ends. He wants to Israel to further have a hold over Gaza. What is the end game as far as Israel is concerned? A, is it to completely control the Palestinian land as well? B, is it to displace all the Palestinians from their places, their areas where they have been living for decades, and to give that land, as has been the case in different other areas in Palestine as well, to the Israelis? What does Israel want?
Well, I think right now it wants death and destruction, but I don't think it minds, permanently controlling the Gaza Strip. In fact, we've heard several senior officials in the Israeli coalition talking about that, talking about rebuilding settlements in the Gaza Strip. We've seen pictures from the Israeli soldiers who are now invading the Gaza Strip, and commentary by leaders of the political parties in the coalition saying we are back and we're not leaving, and we will rebuild settlements in that strip. Overall, I think right now what Israel is doing is pushing Palestinians, forcibly displacing Palestinians from Gaza by way of fire, bombardment, starvation, and deprivation. And for now, they're pushing them into the southern Gaza Strip. They are turning this very tiny piece of land into an unlivable space. And I think they would not mind at all to push them completely out of Gaza. There is a lot of resistance, of course, from Egypt in particular, which shares a border with Gaza. It has said very firmly that it will not accept for the forced depopulation of the Gaza Strip, and that would present a political hurdle. But I think for now, Israel will continue bombarding, it will continue starving, it will continue depriving 2.2 million Palestinians of the basic elements of life until they can take it no more.
All right, you talk of starvation, you talk of, deprivation of different, necessities of life, food, water, medicine, electricity that the people of Gaza are now deprived of. When you look at the situation in the hospitals, in the schools, where children are dying, women are dying, pregnant women who are giving birth without any assistance whatsoever, because there is no medicine, there is no light, there is no electricity. So they can't do anything. What is the West up to? This is something I fail to understand. When you look at the statements that emanate from the West, rarely do you find people talking about the Palestinians. It's mostly about Hamas. It's always about Hamas. Why is that so? Isn't it more than obvious that more than 10,000 people have died because of the barbarities of the Israelis?
I agree with you. And I think one of the things that will leave an indelible mark on the memory and consciousness of all humanity is the indifference with which Palestinian lives are treated by many Western governments. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people march in Western capitals. We know that public opinion around the world opposes these crimes and these atrocities. But these governments insist on supporting Israel's campaign against the Palestinians in Gaza. They continue to persist in this false analogy of Israel waging a war against terrorism, against Hamas, when in fact the vast majority of the victims have been women and children. And so far, there doesn't seem to be enough pressure, enough political will to muster a call for a ceasefire. The ceiling, if you will, that has been imposed, especially by the U.S. administration, is a humanitarian pause. Imagine how ironic it is to talk about a pause, about giving victims of this catastrophe a little bit of a break, some medicine, some food, some water, so that Israel can resume killing them in 2 days. But that's where we are right now, unfortunately, and more pressure is needed to push countries in the right direction, to end this war, to stop the bombs from falling on Gaza, and to stop the killing of women and children.
Noor, this is where we are. Where will we be in, say, 2 weeks' time? You talk of pressure that needs to be mounted on Israel. Who will exert that pressure?
Well, I think there's a lot of important momentum happening in Europe. We've seen statements from Ireland, we've seen statements from Belgium, from even members of parliament and government in Spain, talking about the need to prosecute the Prime Minister of Israel, about the need to impose sanctions and an arms embargo. We've heard from Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. So there is momentum building. I think the Islamic states who are holding an emergency meeting in the coming days, and the Arab League, they have leverage. They can use that leverage with the United States and with others. I think, failing to do that would be a tragedy, really, because Arab and Muslim nations have a lot to contribute to this conversation. They have a lot of power that they can exert if they choose to use it to save lives, to bring the region closer to peace, rather than to entrench this culture of impunity that Israel has enjoyed for so long, to entrench a sense of Israeli supremacy and superiority over international law, over countries in the region, over the very basic principles of the UN Charter. So we'll wait to see if Arab and Muslim countries perform up to par and expectations. But for now, momentum, I believe, is building due to public pressure and really due to the inescapable facts on the ground. You cannot dispute the figures and the facts coming out of Gaza, the appeals from UN agencies. I don't recall any other conflict that has pushed UN agencies and independent experts to frantically issue repeated calls for ceasefire, repeated warnings about the threat of genocide in such a short period. The numbers really are staggering, and they must push everybody in the right direction.
I just hope that the necessary steps are taken in the right direction, starting from the West. In fact, it is the pressure of the West that will make or break this current situation. So all eyes are there, and of course, and the world is also, we are seeing the pressure being mounted on the governments through the different protests that are happening across the world. So fingers crossed, but of course the current situation does not look as optimistic as it should have been, because almost a month, more than a month now has passed. Thank you very much, Nour, Odeh, political activist and analyst, joining us from the West Bank. We hope to talk to you soon about more developments as far as the Palestinian issue is concerned. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns the 146th birth anniversary of our national poet, philosopher, Allama Muhammad Iqbal. When you look at his life, I mean, the preachings, the thought process that Allama Muhammad Iqbal had decades ago, and what he preached through his poetry is extremely relevant in this day and age as well, whether it be for the youth, whether it be for the Muslims in general, to highlight what we call Iqbaliyat, or to highlight what the message of Allama Muhammad Iqbal has been. We've been joined by Khurram Ilahi. He's a scholar and he joins us in the studio. Khurram, thank you very much to have joined us. We've seen each other after quite a long time. So welcome back to our show.
Thanks to Iqbal.
Of course, thanks to Iqbal. Iqbal always brings us together, doesn't he?
True.
Iqbaliyat, Iqbal's philosophy, Iqbal's nature, Iqbal's way of life and his thought process. How important are the different parts of those in this day and age?
Certainly. So today, or this day, this time, this year, I'm talking more about Iqbal and futurism. He's becoming more and more relevant. Iqbal, I guess around in 1910 said, "Gya daur-e sarmayadari gya." He was looking and he was talking about the decline of capitalism. He talked about the rise of the China. Gira khab Chini sambhalne lage. He was talking about the Chinese will rise. He was so sure that for the peace of Asia, the Afghanistan stands as the jugular vein of the central peace of the world. And he was quoting all these stuff in 1920s. For the Kashmiri boys, he wrote a complete set of 14 poems in Ramghan Hijaz, Gift of Hijaz. Mullah Zada Zagam Lola Bi Kashmiri Ka Biyad, that how you need to stand up for your independence. This is what was the futuristic side of Iqbal. And when we talk about the scientific side of Iqbal, even there he had so much to say. He was talking about quantum physics. In 1919, in 1921, he wrote a poem about Einstein, saying that Moses' family just got a new Zoroaster. So interesting, he wanted us to read. Why a poet in subcontinental part of the region, colonized area, why he was writing about Einstein while he should only be writing about the revolutionary poems? Because he knew that even if you become independent, you're going nowhere without education, you're going nowhere without scientific ideas. Today, one really interesting thing, which again I'm pushing people, because we're on the edge of finding new depth of the atom. Iqbal talked about matter as the lower colony of ego. That's such a strange idea, that he said that this matter, what looks to you as something stationary, it's not, and it is a lower colony of ego and a will, and it has its own life, kind of. Iqbal came up with a religious thought, a political thought for Muslims. He came with a scientific mind. He came about all those narratives that we need in this age. Third book which I'm completing this year is about space travel and poetry of Iqbal. Kanat na karala mein rango boo pe, chaman aur bhi aashiyan aur bhi. He was so sure that we should not satisfy on this planet Earth, because if Allah created planet Earth, He created so many other planets. So why don't you go there? And imagine, just look at Javeed Nama, his celestial journey with his ustad, his mentor Rumi. The first planet that they visited was Mars, and the person who's briefing them about Mars was an astronomer, quoted and quoted astronomer. These terms were so feeble in those days when Iqbal was writing this all.
But it's so relevant now.
So relevant now. So when you were saying, how is Iqbal relevant? He's relevant because of physics, he's relevant because of space travel, he's relevant because he knew about the decline of capitalism, how Iqbal was cherishing in Iblis ki Majlis Ashur and the Devil's Parliament. He talked about Marx. So Iqbal had so much to say in his 12,000 verses. But the trouble is, Iqbal's job was to write, and it was our job to read.
And we interpret it in the right manner.
Yeah, and we just didn't do that. So we have captivated Iqbal in few of his poems. That's one of my complaints, my shikwas, that we have captivated Iqbal in few poems.
I wish we could have a jawab shikwa as far as that is
Certainly.
Iqbal's poetry and the intellectual and political awakening of the Muslims of the subcontinent are directly related.
Yeah.
Then there are the views on hudud, ijtihad and separation of Muslims in the subcontinent. How important are those? And when you look at the Muslim world today, how relevant are those as well?
Foucault gave a wonderful term. He said individualizations of civilization. Iqbal is the individual self which represents the complete Muslim civilization. So when he looked at Muslims as a colonized beings, he had so many options to do, fighting a war. He could lead a war by arms, but he chose poetry because he knew that these circles of colonialization can come time and time again, but poetry never gets old. Now coming back, there is a recent book, Prime Movers, where Iqbal talked about 12. The author of Prime Mover talked about 12 amazing philosophers who created political thought. First is Paracelsus, then he talked about Rousseau, Jesus, he talked about Gandhi, and 12th is Iqbal. And he said, I'm not adding Aristotle because Aristotle is the first one who wrote about politics, but I'm adding Iqbal because Aristotle is an academician when it comes to politics, and Iqbal's single words can bring revolution. So Iqbal brought so much energy quoting Qaid. Look, we cherish so much Qaid in the politics of 1930s, but we forget Iqbal. Qaid said that once asked to an Englishman, England or Shakespeare, he said, I'll choose Shakespeare. Qaid said, quote unquote, I don't have a separate nation right now, but if you'll ask me Iqbal or a separate nation, I'll choose Iqbal many times because he'll get me another nation.
Exactly, and I think this is what we need to do. We need to choose Iqbal, we need to choose his points of views, his methodology, his philosophy, and apply it in this day and age, whether it be for the youth, whether it be for the Muslims, whether it be for the scientific endeavors that the world is going through and the discoveries that we are making every single day. Thank you very much. We're a bit short of time, Khurram, but it was a pleasure. We'll have you for a longer period of time very, very soon. Thank you very much, Khurram, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories very, very quickly. The first concerns 2 million species that are at risk of extinction. That is as far as a report that has recently come out, and it talks about different percentage of these species that are on the brink of extinction and what needs to be done, whether it be in the form of fighting against climate change or the other factors that are proving to be detrimental for the extinction of these species. And finally, let's come to the art world, where Picasso's painting has sold for $139 million US. It is the most valuable art auction this year. The painting is called Femme à la montre, which means woman with a watch. This was already bought in 1968 by another person and then resold, now bought by an anonymous buyer for this huge amount, $139 million US. Picasso, of course, is legendary, but so are his paintings. Art is also something that we need to value in this day and age, where we are maybe valuing other things and other aspects of our life. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. See you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay tuned. Allah Hafiz.